Hello again. We are Chris Lee, Max Barr, and Blake Lovell of Southeastern 14 here to preview the Elite Eight matchup, a rematch of a game played earlier this season in Tuscaloosa, which Clemson won. Not easy to beat the Crimson Tide in Tuscaloosa, but Clemson did it, and style is going to be something we're going to break down here. And maybe the hows of how Alabama can win, how Clemson can win. You can catch this one 8:49 Eastern on TBS and Crypto.com Arena. Just rolls right off the tongue there. Before we get into the details of this game, the tournament is
Center.
here.
That's what it is.
Thank
Get
you,
out
Blake.
of here with that other name.
The tournament is here. BetOnline is your bracket headquarters for this season with the best bracket contest out there. Odds, lines, info on every game, every round, right up to the national championship. You can access the most up-to-the-minute wagering information anytime from your desktop or mobile devices. Even track your bracket real-time all the way through the tournament. Head to BetOnline today. Get in on all the action. Remember to use promo code BELIEVE. That is BLEAV for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, the game starts here. Max, before we get into the matchup itself, I think availability is going to be something to look at. Wrightsell with the head injury for Alabama. You had Nick Pringle's heel injury, which he played through, but he was clearly hobbled. Any thoughts on the health? We're doing this Friday morning, so we may not have everything as it's going to stand going into the matchup, but I'm just interested on your thoughts on that and anything off the top that could influence player availability.
Yeah, so Pringle, I'm sure Pringle will play. I'd be surprised. He finished out the game. Definitely, I think they called it a heel bruise on the broadcast. Would much rather have a heel bruise than a Achilles. So I mean, hey, it's the Elite Eight. I'm sure he'll play. But as far as Wrightsell, not so sure. He's got to finish those concussion protocols. He's got to pass all of them. And Oates said he's not playing them until he does, and he hasn't done that. So the staff is evaluating him every day, day to day. He's going to participate in shoot-arounds, not going to participate in the full contact practice. Until he passes those protocols, he's not going to play as good as he looks. He's smiling, laughing, having a good time at shoot-around. Kind of thought he was going to play, but just is not cleared yet, and they're not going to mess around with a head injury. And then as for Clemson, I'm pretty sure Clemson's at full health. But hey, we just saw Alabama take down number 1 seed without Wrightsell. So they've proven they can win without him.
I love that Max has become our medical expert here at Southeastern 14.
Someone's got to do it.
You're right. It's not going to be Chris, mere Chris, that's for sure. Yeah, I mean, again, we said that the big thing going into that North Carolina game was, is Wrightsell going to play? Is he not? And look, I mean, we thought that could be a significant part of the reason why Carolina could win that game. But ultimately, Alabama, as we mentioned, multiple guys step up. The Big Four with a big game from all of them. And here they are marching on. And on the other side of this, you look at Clemson, a team that, I just don't think a lot of people expected to advance past the first round because New Mexico was the hot Mountain West team coming into this thing. And so many people were picking New Mexico to pull the upset, even if they didn't think they could win in the next round against Baylor. But Clemson beats New Mexico, blows them out. They go and beat a hard-nosed Baylor team. Then they come out and hold on against Arizona, the number 2 seed. And so Clemson did not get here by accident. They were a team that, lost 3 of their last 4 games going into the NCAA tournament. They lost games to Notre Dame. They lost to Wake Forest. They lost to Boston College by 21 points, mind you, in the ACC tournament. And now here they are, a win away from the Final Four. That is called getting hot at the right time. And how many times in the NCAA tournament have we seen teams do that, right? And so you've got 2 teams here. Clemson, we just mentioned all the ways they've done this. Alabama, another team that struggled down the stretch. Well, they lost 4 of their 6 games, I think, heading into the NCAA tournament. Gave up 102 to Florida, gave up 105 to Florida, gave up 117 to Kentucky, all those things, right? And here they are. So quite a matchup between these two teams who are fully embracing the motto of get hot at the right time.
I had made a lot of Clemson's ability to slow teams down. I'm looking at some of the games Clemson won and lost that were kind of, I don't know, aberrations in tempo, like really high tempo numbers or low tempo numbers. Clemson did have some issues with some high possession games, losing to Miami 74 possessions, Memphis 74 possessions, Georgia Tech 75 possessions, but that was double overtime. And then you look and they lost a 57 possession game, but that was to Virginia, which is, kind of an anomaly in its own right. And then lost in the ACC tournament to Boston College in the 62 possession game after losing to Wake Forest in the 68 possession game. Now let me turn to Alabama, because you would think a high possession game would always favor Alabama. Alabama lost an 80 possession game to Arizona, a 72 possession game to Purdue, a 72 possession game to Ohio State, 77 possessions to Tennessee, 77 to Auburn, 80 to Kentucky, 80 to Florida. So I'm a little surprised, and I hadn't looked at this until just now. So that's issue number one. And maybe tempo isn't as big of a factor as we thought. But I think issue number two starts with Alabama and its ability, or as Nate Oates often noted, inability to guard people. How did Alabama beat North Carolina? It got stops. It held R.J. Davis down. Baycott didn't have a tremendous game. And Grant Nelson made two monumental defensive plays down the stretch. Are we buying Alabama as a team that can defend for another game or two, or was that just a one-off thing, guys?
Well, I think it's part matchup, and I think it's also, I am buying in a little bit. They're going to play as hard as they possibly can, and Rylan Griffin is a quality perimeter defender. So is Estrada. I think a big piece of that defense, that one reason why they were able to play so well on the perimeter, is because Grant Nelson didn't foul out. He had 3 fouls but stayed in the game and didn't pick up a fourth. And so when you have his shot blocking down low, it can kind of afford to be a little bit more pressure heavy on the perimeter. The thing with the matchup against Clemson is the pace difference now, where North Carolina was willing to run up and down with Alabama and play that game. You're kind of playing with fire. And Clemson's not going to do that at all. I mean, how many times in that Clemson-Arizona game did Arizona come down, take a quick shot, and Clemson had the advantage. They had numbers, could have gotten out and ran, but they walked that ball up the court and just slow it down. So where North Carolina would lean into that pace, I don't think Clemson's going to do that. So they're going to make Alabama defend. But I can get into the numbers here a little bit. The biggest thing that I'm looking at, and I'd mentioned it on our live show this morning, the 3-point defense for Clemson has been unbelievable. Unbelievable. Through 3 games, I wrote it down. They're holding teams. It's 14 of 75 is what opponents are shooting from 3 over the past 3 games. And that's not like it's like they've caught like San Diego State and some of these good teams, but that don't shoot well. Playing Baylor, playing Arizona, some of the best 3-point shooting teams in the country. And they've held them to 18.6%. So there's a little bit of that. I'm like, okay, the averages are going to come back up. Teams are going to start hitting more shots. But also when you watch them and you look at their lineup, they play 3 guys 6'8" or taller. Jack Clark and Chauncey Wiggins at the 3 are both 6'10". Then Shefflin's a beast at the 4 at 6'8", and PJ Hall's 6'10". So you got a lot of length. You got 3 guys basically that play like they're 6'10" out there. That's been bothering teams so far. So I'll be interested to see if that affects an offense like Alabama's.
Yeah, I mean, and let's remind everyone. I know Alabama fans haven't forgotten it. I know Clemson fans haven't forgotten it. But these two teams played on November the 28th. And let's just remember that this game has already happened before, and now they will meet again for a shot at the Final Four. Clemson won that game in Tuscaloosa. a rare Coleman Coliseum loss for Alabama this year. Clemson won that game 85-77. And I think that's interesting, right? Because Alabama only lost 2 home games all year. One was to Tennessee, one was to Clemson. And I think you go back to that game, what did Clemson do well? They shot it well. They were 11 to 21 from 3. They shot it well kind of everywhere. They were 54% from 2. But like Alabama did not shoot the ball well. They were 12 of 32 from 2, 38%. That's not good. They were 11 to 35 from 3, 31%. So the percentage is not good there. Alabama did get a lot of offensive rebounds. Clemson turned it over a little bit, but it was a game where it stayed pretty close. Like Clemson was up 10 with like 5 minutes to go. Alabama's biggest lead in that game was 7. That was basically almost midway through the second half. And then Clemson just kind of turned it on and found a way to win the game. So that's something that's certainly notable. I think when you go back and see all the things there, this time of year, you don't just have to take the tape from the game you just saw. You can easily now just go back and say, all right, here's what we did the first time. Here's what worked. Here's what didn't work. 2 teams are different now because that was months ago. But there are definitely things that Clemson can use from that game to try to exploit some of the same things they did the last time around. There are some things that Alabama can use in that game. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I think Alabama doesn't like teams that wear orange. Beat Mercer, lost to Clemson, lost twice to Tennessee, lost
Chris,
twice
I was
to
on
Florida.
that trend weeks ago.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like Alabama versus orange has not been a good combination this year.
No. No, the difference is Florida and Tennessee are higher tempo teams, and Clemson is not. But, I mean, the more that I watch Alabama, I just think Alabama can sort of will its style on other people. And the other thing Alabama's got is it just got so many guys who can hurt you offensively. I mean, Grant Nelson is going to be the guy that Alabama fans remember from this tournament, I think, because he carried the Crimson Tide to a win over North Carolina. But he's been kind of non-existent the first couple games of the tournament, at least from a scoring perspective, and he's done that at times. This is just a team that I think has got so many offensive weapons and can do to you what it wants to do that I think Alabama is just such a tough out for that reason, guys. I mean, what concerns you from the Clemson perspective? Where can Clemson combat some of this if there's something we haven't gotten to?
Well, there's two big things, and then maybe a third that kind of just adds a little bit. The number one thing is obviously the 3-point defense and that length on the perimeter. They stymied Baylor, stymied Arizona. They've got a good perimeter defense. I mean, I'm not going to take it away from them. The other thing is rebounding, but we said that in the North Carolina preview.
Yeah.
And Alabama just, with how many threes they shoot, with the pace that they play, the traditional rebounding is not usually there. It's a lot of long rebounds, a lot of back rim, and it flies off, or it's, a really soft 3 and it floats up on the, rim for a little while. And it's weird rebounding when you play Alabama. So Shefflin can rebound the heck out of the ball. So can PJ Hall. But it's just a little bit different. That last little note that I was talking about was Clemson is a very good free throw shooting team. They really make their free throws, like all 5 starters and like the 2 guys out. They don't have a free throw weakness really. I think they're top 10 in the country in free throw shooting. So if the game does come down to it, and you're losing and you got a foul, Clemson's just it's a headache because every guy is probably going to make both. Looking at the Alabama, there is a side that there's an area that I do really like with Alabama. When you look at the point distribution and where Clemson gets scored on, they are second to last, second highest in the ACC and a lot of points from 2. As lengthy as they are and how they can bother jump shots, Hall and Shefflin are not like the scary rim protection, shot blocking, crazy recovery after you get beat on the drive and they come back and blocked by James type of thing. That's not really how Shefflin and Hall play. So I think that Sears and Estrada and these guys can get to the rim and they're tough finishers. So I think they can do a lot of damage around the rim. seeing things on both sides. There's a reason the spread opened up at 1 or 2 baskets. There's a reason it's close.
Well, there's another reason, and that's because Clemson this year has 11 losses. 6 of those are by 5 points or fewer. I think they're like 3-6 in games decided by 5 points or less. So that's something interesting to note. But at the same time, I'm like, if you're playing a team where Clemson's not, I mean, they played a lot of close games. If you're playing a team where if they're making shots, they can run away with this, it's Alabama.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying they're going to, but that's what's interesting here. If you get a close game, again, Clemson they just had some either unlucky breaks, which happens throughout the course of the season, or the other team just makes a play. And I think that's at least interesting to note. So in the flip side of that, you could say, well, they're a 6 seed, they have 11 losses, but realistically, if 2 or 3 things break their way, Clemson's maybe a top 4 seed, and so it's kind of evened out. So, yeah, picks.
All right. I look at matchups, and sometimes that determines who I'm picking. Sometimes I just have belief in a team. And look, I fell off Alabama after seeing the way this team defended, especially at the end of the season. And you can't yell at me for that, Alabama fans, because your own coach acknowledged it was a problem.
You
well,
can,
they
Alabama
will.
fans.
Get 'em.
Go for it.
Go for it. I don't care. I really don't care.
Some of us did not jump off the Alabama bandwagon.
As my friend Blake pointed out in our live stream on Friday morning when we unpacked Alabama's win over North Carolina, Mark Sears was Alabama's 4th leading scorer. In addition to that, Wrightsell didn't play. We saw Rylan Griffin carry this team. Estrada's a guy that everybody knows can score a bunch. He had 19. And Sears is a guy that can play the entire game. March is about guards. Mark Sears is about as good a guard as there is left in this tournament, especially at the point guard position. After watching these guys, seeing how they attacked North Carolina, seeing how a guy like Grant Nelson stepped up and gave them some big offensive stop or defensive stops, not to mention just took it to North Carolina's inside guys and hit some really nice reverse layups and found ways to get creative. That's the thing. Alabama's got plenty of ways it can beat you. It can get creative in how it does it. I believe in Nate Oates. I believe in this team. I'm going to take Alabama.
Okay. All right. I gotta make sure I execute this right. Okay. A lot of pressure now, Blake. A lot of pressure. So there's a few things, there's a few angles that went into my pick of this. So one thing, I'll just go, I have a few for each team, but I'll make it quick. Clemson starts 4 seniors, and the only non-senior is a junior. So I think they're the 25th oldest team in the country. But I'm not putting all my eggs into one basket, but that is an angle that I like. And then the other thing is for Alabama. Listen, I mean, Clemson just beat Arizona, yes, but Arizona got 17 offensive rebounds and shot 5 of 28 for 17.9% from 3. If you're giving up 17 offensive rebounds to Alabama, they are making more than 5 threes. I would be shocked if they shot 18%, lower than 18% from 3 with 17 offensive rebounds. So, I mean, I was watching that game. I mean, Caleb Love, 0 of 9 from 3. Kashad Johnson, 0 of 3 from 3. Pella Lawson was 1 for 6. I mean, the amount of possessions just wasted with a bad 3-point shot for Arizona. And they only lose by 5. So, I will be pulling with everything I have for Alabama. I will. I truly will. But there's a duty that I need to fulfill. And over the past 11 years, a 5 seed or worse has made the Final Four 11 years in a row. It's down to Clemson and NC State. So, Alabama fans, you are welcome. Someone had to do this. So be it if it's me. Give me those boys that play out of the Little John Coliseum. Give me Clemson.
All right. So if you're in Alabama, to make like this is your test to see if you've actually watched the full video. Okay. So Alabama fans have begged Max and I to pick Clemson in this game. Like begged us because our strategy worked out against North Carolina. Okay. Another ACC team here trying to get over the orange voodoo, all that, begging us to pick Clemson in this game. Now, luckily, the Southeastern 14 kiss of death is officially out of play because Chris picked Alabama, Max picked Clemson, so we've now taken step one. So now it's just a matter of completing the beg of both Max and I picking against Alabama. So, Alabama fans, I apologize. I am not going to be able to fulfill my end of the bargain here because I look at this game and I see what Clemson's done. I see Alabama's struggles against teams in orange. I see all those things. But it's time to go back to what got us here. All right? And that was my belief in the Alabama Crimson Tide back in December when the entire world is looking at Alabama and thinking, what on earth is this team doing at 6-5? They were the number one overall seed in the tournament last year. They've lost 3 in a row. They lost a home game to Clemson a month ago. And now what is going on with this team? And what we've seen is that Mark Sears, Grant Nelson, Ryland Griffin, Aaron Estrada, they all stepped up big in that game against North Carolina. But I still think this comes down to Mark Sears and the special player that he is. I think he makes enough plays in this one. Grant Nelson has never been more confident, perhaps, in his life than he is going into this game on Saturday. So everything is setting up in Alabama's favor in this game. I applaud what Clemson has done to this point, and I think this is, talk about, what was it people were talking yesterday? Brad Brownell has been on the hot seat for a decade, and this guy has got his team a win away from the Final Four. Good for him. Because, man, I have never seen a coach just get completely – I mean, again, like you said, they want him gone 10 years ago, basically. They have the combination of experience, of size. They played a tough schedule this year. As we said, they lost a lot of close games, but they played a pretty good schedule when you go back, especially the non-conference. And then, of course, they had their usual slate in the ACC and all of that. But I think this Alabama team – here it is, the phrase you want to hear. Sometimes they're just going to outscore people.
There it is.
And I think they didn't do it last time against Clemson. Alabama's got a chip on their shoulder now. They want the revenge. This isn't just another game. They don't want just revenge for this game. They want revenge for the college football national championship. Alabama is coming for everything in this game here. We have fun with our picks. I'm picking the Crimson Tide in this game. Apologies, Alabama fans. No kiss of death from Southeastern 14. I think this is a really good setup.
So Blake, just for the record, that makes Max the good guy, not the bad guy, right? If you
absolutely, Max is the good guy.
If you're drive-by, you may not know what's going on, but
Alabama fans, Max is the good guy here. He prevented the Southeastern 14 kiss of death.
I feel like a lamb that has just been sacrificed to save the rest.
Well, you've not, because I'm the one you should be frustrated with, because my picks have not been great at times, to say the least.
I'll put it this way. If there is anyone rooting for an all-SEC championship game in the whole world, if there's anyone rooting for it more than me, I would like to find that person because they don't exist. So just want to put it that way.
25 minutes. Gentlemen,
enjoy this. Clemson and Alabama fans, enjoy this.
The Elite Eight.
One of you two teams are going to the Final Four. All right? Enjoy this. Who cares what our picks are? Who cares? Just enjoy the game. It's the Elite Eight. Yes. You're playing it at the Staples Center. This is incredible. So, what an incredible matchup this is.
When did that thing become the Crypto.com arena?
I guess whenever Staples wanted to not pay as much as Crypto.com.
I'd
Whenever
miss this
the
somehow.
Thompson Bowling became the cafeteria.
Food City, the
Yeah.
cafeteria. We'll have
All
some
right.
fun with that. All right. We have fun with these. Hopefully you guys had fun watching. If you did and you haven't subscribed, please do that. That is free. Hit the like button. That is also free, but it helps us out. For Max Barr, Blake Lovell, I'm Chris Lee, wishing you a happy Easter. We are Southeastern 14, presented by BetOnline.